Being authentic isn't about what you know, it's really about what you don't know, and being okay with the fact that you don't know a lot. Like, something that really used to confuse me was what it meant to be authentic. And I know that might seem weird, but like anytime somebody be like, yo, just be yourself, it would be the most confusing sort of experience of my life. I'd be like, what do you mean? I don't. What self do you want me to be? I feel like there's a lot of selves, which really shines a light on like the way I was going about it. Because, you know, the only thing I could think of when people would say that without any sort of clarification was like, all right, I'm gonna, try to put together a version of me based on previous versions, past selves of me that were great. Like I was like, oh, there's a version where I was telling it like it is. I'll take that. And, here's another part of me where I was like really kind, or I was, giving or whatever. And I'd be like, all right, well, I'll try to put all these together and then that will be the authentic person. But it turned out to be it's weird because, you end up trying to be this sort of Franken version of yourself that is completely disconnected from the present moment. And then it's like you're trying to put on this past version and you're like walking around like it's a tight jacket. It's really weird. And, other stuff that I'd try was trying to feel deeply like, oh, is this my authentic expression? But I'd inevitably be sort of comparing my idea about what I was thinking was authentic to this sort of feeling that I was having. At the end of the day, I was still trying to sort of attach what I thought was authenticity to some sort of like awareness, and it was janky and it never really worked out. Nothing really changed for me for a very long time until I realized that authenticity actually has a lot more to do with what isn't than what is, or at least the practice of, being an authentic person. I think a lot of the time what we end up doing, at least what I was doing, was trying to hit this sort of goal of authenticity or treat the goal of authenticity like it's the whole thing. Like, being an authentic person is this sort of, formula, and then if I'm hitting this authenticity, then I'm doing it right. But in truth, like what we are describing usually as authenticity is the result of a process of beingness, of being open, of being aware, of being off ourselves, of being curious. But when we disconnect what our definition of authenticity is from that, we end up sort of end gaining and just trying to put on what we think is authentic, which is why we get so many people saying all kinds of, bananas stuff, talking about like, that's just my authentic expression. I'm just being authentic. And it's like, what? Like, you're being a version of you that happened in the past that you were like, that's it. And I'm trying to bring that into the moment. But being authentic isn't a sort of static process. It's not rigid. I found that it's really more about what isn't than what is. And what I mean by that is when we treat our authenticity like it's something that can be quantified, that it can be held and objectified, we really just kind of freeze ourselves in a past egoic state. And so I found that what authenticity arises from is when we are off ourselves, when we're not sort of attached to our sort of shoulds and our ideas about who we're supposed to be and who we're not supposed to be, when we're open. And the more open we are, the more off ourselves we are, the more authentic our expression, right? The less reactive I am. If I'm in any sort of situation in my life and that sort of knee-jerk reaction shows up, if I attach to that reaction, what I'm actually doing, I had one of my mentors once say, like, if you are reacting, you are only reacting to your programming, right? So any sort of instant reaction that I have is a reaction to sort of a past programming, a past identification, and is disconnected from this present moment. It's disconnected from what's happening right now. So I'm reacting to some psychological thing. Meanwhile, what's happening right here may be completely different, but because of, fear, anxiety, the need to feel safe, a lot of the time we attach to those reactions right out the gate. And what happens is when we do attach to these reactions, we end up repeating sort of the same patterns, the same things over and over and over again. And so when we are in a state of responsibility, right, when we are responding instead of reacting, what is showing up, or what tends to show up, is what we would deem as our authentic expression. But that's not something that you could actually hold, right? Because the idea of that reaction is in the known, right? When we are in a state of reaction or judgment, when we are hyper judgmental, what we're actually doing is trying to hold on to something that is known. If I enter a situation that's kind of in this liminal space, I don't know what's gonna happen, the faster, if I rush to judgment fast, what I'm actually doing is attaching to, I know what this is. It's attaching to an idea of a known situation, right? I know that this person is being really unkind to me by the way that they purse their lips, or the way that they moved their self, or whatever it is, right? We attach meaning, and in doing so, that resistance feels safe. It feels like I know for sure exactly what this is. But we've all been in situations where it's like, I thought it was one thing and then it ended up being something else. You know what I mean? I thought it was exactly this, and it was like, oh nope, that's not what it really was. And so when we are in a state of openness, when we're not so quick to judge, when we're not so quick to attach to what we think things are supposed to be or should be, we open up and we're calmer. We allow the situation to sort of come to us as it is. And this requires kind of a tremendous amount of trust in yourself, right? Trust that I'm able to respond to whatever life throws at me. And this is not something that, you know, a lot of us are very practiced at. When we go into certain social situations, I specifically, you know, it would feel a lot safer for me to put on a sort of version of myself that I knew was hitting back in the day. Like, oh, I remember I went to the party one time. I was the party guy. That was it. Everybody loved it. Everybody seemed to have a good time. And I remember, like, so I'd go into situations like this and try to like put on that version, like try to put on some kind of, you know, mask or whatever it was. And it feels safe for a bit. One of the challenges though of that is that it requires you to use a lot of energy. What you're actually doing, and including being completely disconnected from what's happening in front of you, you are using a lot of energy to sort of hold on to that thing. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to be, you know, who you think you're supposed to be, even if you have judged that version of yourself as authentic. Right? That's the issue that we have when we objectify our authenticity or objectify ourselves as authentic. I know this is the authentic expression. No, that's who you were back then. When we allow authenticity to naturally arise out of whatever the situation is, I don't know how I'm going to show up today. Right? I don't know what version of me is going to show up. I just know I'm open and I'm gonna be able to handle whatever happens, right? I don't know how this is gonna go, but I know I'm gonna make it work for me. Why? Well, because I have no choice. Really, authenticity is what arises from absolute acceptance. Acceptance that what is happening and it cannot be happening any other way. So I don't drop into those states of resistance. I don't disconnect from the present moment and check in with a should, right? They shouldn't have said that. They shouldn't have. I'm clear. I'm open. I'm aware. And what shows up for me in that moment is my authentic response. Authenticity, being yourself, arises from you not knowing how anything's really gonna go. I don't know. And being comfortable with that, right? A lot of us, the uncomfortability of not knowing how people are gonna react, about how the situation is gonna go, how this, you know, job interview, whatever it is, can make us, I mean, it makes you uncomfortable. So if I know I can put on a sort of version of me that will work, then, you know, that feels safe. I didn't make any sort of progress in the sort of, I don't know, that's true, but like in the authenticity game, I made the most progress when I stopped trying to turn it into something that was, when I stopped trying to sort of understand it as like, you know, I went online one time and it was like a bunch of lists of like, this is what it means to be authentic. When I stopped, you know, trying to do so much stuff and just allow things to be, right? The less that I'm out trying to grasp, the less I'm trying to attach to like what should be and my idea about the right way, the more I'm in a state of openness and allowance, my most authentic expression is what shows up. And the best part is, it's usually some sort of amalgamation of all the sort of masks you've ever worn, right? I don't know, you know, what's gonna pop up. I had one of my clients once say, and a really brilliant example was, if we think about your sort of personalities or mask as these fingers, right? One of the fingers, thinking that it's the totality of who I am is the finger, is the issue, right? When we are moving from a deeper state of awareness, when we allow ourselves to be off ourselves, we become aware that, oh, you know, there's some of me in all of these fingers. These are all sort of one thing. It's all a hand. And when we allow that hand to show up, you know, some days this might pop in, this might pop in, this might pop in, but I'm not attached to any particular one. I'm not saying this is exactly who I am. I'm not walking around being like, you know, I'm a bitch, so like that's just what it is. And it's like, nah, I don't know. I really don't know what's gonna show up. And not creating that sort of pressure for yourself in situations. Something that I really love practicing is, anytime I'm going into any unfamiliar territory, really consciously reducing the idea of what I know, reducing my attachments to absolutes, noticing that sort of urge to want to create something so that I can feel safe, and then immediately just letting that go. I'm gonna let that be. I'm going to drop in, feel my feet on the floor, notice my breath, and just be present with what's in front of me. I'm gonna listen to understand and not to respond. I'm going to just be open to whatever shows up. I make it just this habit of letting go of what I think I know. Even if I'm going into a situation where I think like I've been there before, I know what to expect. It's like, you don't know. I don't know. Sitting in the space of I don't know is the best way to show up authentically to anything you do in your life. And I think that's probably one of the best ways I can think about being authentic. Being authentic isn't about what you know, it's really about what you don't know, and being okay with the fact that you don't know a lot. But yeah, I hope any of this was useful to you. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day. I love you. Know yourself.